Greetings and welcome to Legacies of Wavryn, Lore of the Endelment. This will be the prologue and the first chapter of this reading. Prologue. Grandpa, the 7-year-old child called out as he readied for bed. Tell me a story. Grandpa chuckled, then knelt down near the right side of the child's bed and said, Very well. What would you like? Tell me one about him again. Him? The child nodded his head. Then Grandpa asked, Are the tales about him your favorites? The child quickly nodded again as he smiled. Then Grandpa said, But he's not a hero. That's okay, Grandpa. I don't mind. There's always a good ending. Okay. Grandpa cleared his throat a bit, then said, Our tale begins on a bright and beautiful day, with clear skies and a gentle breeze. A peaceful legion, ruled by a great king and his advisor, have just discovered 2 new magical items. Makaran Enzar and Rokardrek Gaken, huh? Yes. However, there were also 2 engraved stones that were broken from each other. One said, Power of Elune. The other said, Power of Darkness. For nearly 3 days, the king, his advisor, and a few of the followers examined these items, finding only a small few could wield the magical creations of the gods. One being the king's best of warriors. Grandpa leaned slightly towards the child and continued, But one night, just like tonight, a dark storm blew in from the south. But this was not any normal storm. It was a blackened cloud, filled with vile energy and hateful thunder as it struck with heartless rage. It was Shadow, the child said, wasn't it? Correct. Shadow's storm flew over to shroud the land. He got the king's followers to tremble in fear with his awesome might. As Shadow hovered above, he called out in a dark and twisted voice, I challenge this world's greatest fighter to stand before me. If not, I shall destroy all of what you have created. Grandpa then motioned away from the child as he continued, But the king and his best warrior, no matter what fearsome powers Shadow had, stood courageously against his authority. Yet they knew they had to make a decision. Trusting him, the king called for his warrior to combat against Shadow's evil. As the warrior stepped forth to fight, Shadow formed a physical body from the angry clouds and stood against him. Once he had, the child quickly sat up and asked, Is he still that evil fox, Grandpa? The King of Darkness? Grandpa smiled as he replied, Of course, but don't worry. He then stood up and motioned to place the covers back onto his grandson. As the child laid back down, Grandpa said, Now just relax and let me continue with the story. He pulled a wooden chair over to sit down, then continued, Shadow, in his massively tall, 9-tailed fox form, towered over the mighty warrior. He stared down with his hateful and vicious fire-red eyes, as he said, If you can best me, I shall leave. If you cannot, you shall become my slave. Since the warrior was only planning to serve his great king and no other, he felt he could not lose. The 2 clashed brilliantly against each other. They fought valiantly as the storm hovered above, lighting up the area with every strike they gave. But alas, the brave warrior could not stand against Shadow's fearsome powers. He was defeated, yet not destroyed. Once having bested his foe, Shadow commanded his new servant to bring forth his greatest and lost creation of destruction. You're not telling him another one of those dumb fairy tales again, are you? A man asked, standing at the child's bedroom doorway. The child quickly sat up to look over at the man and barked, Go away, big brother. Grandpa's trying to tell a story. Whatever. Grandpa glanced over to watch as the man walked away. Then he turned back to his grandson. As the child laid back down, Grandpa said, "That wasn't very nice. Big brother's a jerk." Alright then, alright. Let's just forget about him for now. The child glanced up at Grandpa and said, "Please continue with the story, Grandpa." Grandpa smiled and continued, "When the king found even his greatest of fighters was defeated by Shadow, he turned to his advisor to figure out what to do with the two magical items. The advisor suggested that they switch the two before the warrior could reach the inner sanctum, in hopes that using the wrong item might destroy Shadow. Fooled by the king and his advisor's antics, the possessed warrior took the wrong weapon and scurried off from the castle. He was forced to call forth a blackened blade capable of destroying anything in its path, and rampaged the kingdom. He became the ender of all elements within the land, the Endelment, an unstoppable monster." Then what happened, Grandpa? Then, something changed. Having nearly conquered the kingdom, the warrior was broken free from Shadow's vile grasp. The sword he held was no longer a tool of death. It was now as it should have been, a key. A key, Grandpa? Yes, not just any ordinary key. This key called forth yet another powerful being, someone who could stand against Shadow's might. However, it had to act as if it was Shadow's magical weapon to fool him, so that the one it called forth may have a chance in defeating the King of Darkness. When all seemed lost, a ray of hope shined from just within the magical instrument. Before Shadow could stop her coming, light took hold of the warrior's body, and for a small time changed it into her true form. Light was a magnificent creature whose aura shined through Shadow's darkness, the Queen of Illume. Wow. Having seen enough of what Shadow had done to a race of beautiful mortals, Light used her powers and forced the Dark One back into his horrid realm, where she hoped he was to never be seen again. But even having been banished, Shadow's last words were, "I shall return." Once gone, Light vanished from sight as well, having to take the warrior to her realm. The kingdom was safe once more, so long as the king kept the weapons hidden and apart from each other. They had nothing to fear. And so, waiting until Shadow might bring forth his evil once more, the king told his warriors to keep only one by their side, hiding the other as if it never existed. They hoped that this act would be final and may one day bring peace to their world. The end. As Grandpa motioned to exit his grandson's room, the child called out, "Grandpa!" He stopped and turned to face the child as he asked, "Yes?" "What if Shadow really does come back?" Grandpa chuckled as he motioned back to sit near the child's bedside and replied, "If that were to happen, I want you to promise me something. Can you do that?" The child nodded his head, then Grandpa continued, "If the darkness does ever appear, this you must remember. There is a time in life when you will have to make an impossible choice, even if that choice can only be led by hope. Never give up. Never give in. Promise me that." The child nodded his head one last time, then turned onto his left side as he fell asleep. Grandpa stood up to motion out, smiling as he said, "Good night, Ray." Chapter 1. Power. It's what motivates us, forcing us to continue forward. Power can bring life, even happiness. Sometimes, it may even uphold peace. However, it all erupts to death in the end. Power helps no one. It only causes suffering, pain, misery, agony, and, eventually, defeat. Yet even with destruction set to the very end, power still holds its right to keep all in hopes that it will one day finally be over. Power will one day end itself, and in doing so, end the need to take control. There will be no more demand to struggle or hope. No more sadness, no more ignorance, no more anger, no more loss. There is a time and place for everything to be whole once more. But that is not now. Power still holds true to its history. So even with nothing more than a strange and somewhat ironic story to tell, mixed with very bad karma, I give you the tale of the Endelment. For this tale to begin, you must understand that all of those who revolve in Wavryn had nearly everlasting life. They were also naturally fair of face when it came to their looks. You could say that the women and men had that quality of what humans would call immense beauty. But to those that lived in Wavryn, beautiful was nothing new. They go by the gracefulness in one's spirit. Those in Wavryn could live without oxygen, without food or water, without any bodily fluids, and could strive for very long periods of time. However, all life must come to an end. Life in Wavryn has only been known to last for nearly 1,000 years, but life can end just as easily with a natural-born enemy as well. They died only by one of two causes: expired old age or complete destruction. All creatures in Wavryn were born with a natural rival, who wishes nothing more than to kill their equal. Some believes that if they killed their rival, they'll have eternal life, but it was never proven so. Yet they continue to fight as though that were the case. Unlike most regions of the Milky Way galaxy, maybe even the entire universe, Wavryn souls have been given a special gift from their mighty gods and overseeing Lord, the Creator. The gift of vitality consolidate, or energy concentration. All in Wavryn were blessed with this power, but only few were given a divine gift that made them unique from others. It is said that one man was able to find a way to completely destroy their kind with his powers, making him the first person to ever actually defeat his rival. This man was Lord Callius Shero. Callius was the first in the Wavryn region to find a true way to obliterate any and all types of life forms without fail. He called this technique Shatter. However, Lord Callius was only able to develop a move that was too powerful to control by himself. Therefore, he must have a partner that can help him equalize its intense power. And even with its might, the technique was only able to kill organic beings, unable to break through lifeless objects. Lord Callius and his wife learned of this technique and taught it only to their children, emphasizing that they could never use it without a partner who cannot equally harness and concentrate its energy. Otherwise, the technique itself may very well obliterate those who tried to harness it, possibly the entire planet they stood on. Although Lord Callius found the best of abilities to use in order to defeat his rival, others have found more simple ways to kill off their enemies in hopes to mimic their leader. Though their powers may not be as greatly known as Shatter, they can still obliterate their foe if damaged enough to not be able to fight back. There are some in Wavryn that can't stand those that are weaker and or powerless, or sometimes just different from them. They called these people Quellins. Quellin is an insulting and racial word that means weakling, powerless, and or worthless. Yet there are also those that the people of Wavryn consider pure of life and should never be corrupted. They simply called these people innocents. An innocent to them is one that is unable or too kind to fight in the natures of battle, and is one who has never taken another creature's life for any selfish or unexplainable reason. But war and power are the causes for the loss of the innocents, which some wish to bring a stop to. Kexan, a race filled with nothing but purebred warriors that wish nothing more than to protect all of that which was given to them. They have a similar anatomy to that of humans, but are in no need of it, even if their hearts were torn from their bodies. When it comes to showing rank and power, Kexan's eyes tend to shine with the color of their aura. The brighter they shined, the more powerful they were. Those of male origin were usually tall, around 6 to 7.5 feet, were physically stronger than females, and were given higher standards and practices than those of the female origin. Sexist? I'd say so. Plus, their bodies stop aging between the years of 20 to 25. Those of female origin usually range between 5 feet and 5'9", were commonly smarter, more sensitive emotionally, and were more physically agile than most males, with their aging halted between 15 to 20. Most Kexans, male and female alike, serve any who wish to be saved and will only fight those that are of an unholy nature, thus bringing hope to those who may need it and are welcomed in the graceful realm of Illum when their time has come. However, those who wish to serve none and only bring hope to themselves are looked down upon, disgraced from their heritage, and are forever banished into the infernal realm of darkness when their life is spent. Those of this horrid nature believe that war is life's way of eliminating those who are unworthy of it, created by their holy god or lord, Koju, creator of worlds. Kexans were a loyal and honorable race, sometimes, and were looked upon like gods by their respectful neighbors, the Alicans and the Herogas. Alicans, a race that have the likings of a Kexan, and an animal that have the ability to transform between their half-state and full form. Most have parts of their body either replaced or added that distinguish them in their half-state. For instance, they can have their animal ears, fangs, claws, and eyes, instead of Kexan-like ones, but their noses may stay the same, and they can use it like an animal's. Alicans only believe in worshipping and serving Kexans, as to keep their lives between them at peace, yet some unfortunately get forced to serve others. Sometimes, like Kexans, Alicans' powers are also proven by the shine of their eyes, and all stop in growth between the ages of 15 to 25. However, they usually only have half of their owner's or master's destructive powers. No one really knows why, but some think it's because, as servants, they don't want to outrank their masters and make them feel inferior. Heroga, a race of complete animal-like qualities. Strangely, they have the natural ability to speak in all forms of language, and are usually twice as fast and as strong compared to other feral creatures, other than those in Wavryn. They also have a powerful transformation, unknown to some, that reveals their true form. However, it is hard even for the Herogas themselves to use it. Other than that, they're just like any normal creature. Yet when it comes to being servants, they think differently than Alicans. They don't believe in worshipping their masters to keep peace, especially since they live in a world of their own and care not of any others around them. Herogas just respect their leaders enough to agree with their wishes, listening to their demands, and trying not to cause too much trouble, seeing as most don't have high levels of power. The unfortunate thing about them, they couldn't change their form to hide themselves. They had to stay the way they were born, but that wasn't a bother. Kexan, a twisted vampire-like version of the Kexans. Instead of blood, though, Kexans feast off of power, and use it to destroy anything that they consider as a threat, regardless of who or what it is. Kexans are considered defective because of their actions and methods, known to be immoral. They too show their rank and power by how bright their eyes shined, though most do not. And like vampires, they're never satisfied, always looking for their next target. Always hungry and ready to kill. They never tire, never sleep, never eat, and never directly show themselves, be it light or dark, day or night. Some Kexans will even kill their own kind just for power. Unfortunately for them, Kexans were only granted one main ability and could only increase that specific ability's level, never any other skill or technique that they acquired. Some couldn't even increase their level of power at all. Yet they continue to fight to gain their own empire and to prove to the universe that they were the most powerful race in all of history. That's total bullcrap. The war between Kexan and Kexin began when, of course, the first king was brought forth to rule over Bodor. However, when the third king was commended, Callius Shero, the darkness was brought forth as well. It was believed that since there was such a great hatred between the Kexan and Kexin races, an evil entity was born, and it corrupted their world, sending it into darkness. However, this entity did not last. It was cast away from the realm of mortals by Lord Callius Shero himself, never to be conjured until the Endelment was born. Even so, the forever waging war continued between the two races. In time, a man named Dominic Halen Shero was declared king and ruler over Bodor. Within that time, the belief of darkness was torn aside from their world, only to be known as just a simple fairy tale for everyone to enjoy. Dominic made everyone believe that darkness was gone with lies and deceptions, along with the war. Or so he thought. There became a very powerful rumor that brewed up when Lord Callius banished the darkness from Bodor. This rumor was known as the legendary Endelment. This rumor was believed that if the empire were to be ruled by darkness, the Endelment would be born. The Endelment was believed to have powers beyond the likings of any lower god. The name Endelment was created within the rumor that, if anyone was able to possess it, they would be the end of all elements. It was a major scare in Wavryn, but the fear ended because everyone thought that it would never come true because of Callius. The only reason that everyone knows about the rumor now is because of fairy tales. No one knows how this legend is to be obtained. No one really believes it will ever come true. However, in a single lifetime, one Kexan had found out. Zaec Raegan Shero, prince of King Dominic Halen Shero, was a white man who stood 6 feet tall and had a muscular body. His hair color was pitch black, with it being pure white at the last 2 inches of its length. He grew his hair out and down to his mid-leg and styled it by pulling most of it back into a ponytail, using a bright silver metal hairband. The band sparkled like crystals only in starlight, never in any other light that came to shine upon it. Oddly enough, the band was also Zaec's way of showing his marriage for his beloved, having a small engraving on it that said, "Forever with you, Serena Shero." He also took 2 locks of his hair to hang down past his chin a little from the outer sides of his forehead, yet had them spike out an inch and held up by small, unnoticeable bits of his own energy. He didn't have any facial hair because, for one, it itches, and 2, it just didn't fit his style. Zaec wore black baggy cargo pants with a silver chain belt to hold them up. He had a black muscle shirt that was tucked in, black combat boots, and black weightlifting gloves. He also had a very heavy black leather trench coat that was coming apart from the bottom of the kick flaps, along with the entire inside slightly torn in shreds. The training gloves were a symbol of true fighting spirit within Wavryn. Only very powerful warriors wore them. Any others would have been tested and dealt with if they were not proven to be strong enough. The trenchcoat was designed to have only 2 small pockets on the inside and to have a gun holster on each arm. Each holster was holding a pistol that looked like one of Earth's powerful semi-automatic handguns. It was an 8-round revolver for large and heavy ammunition, 50 cal bullets. Both guns were painted matte black, but had a few small scratches around them. The holsters held the guns with the bottom of the handles facing outward and at each end of the sleeves for easy access, with the barrels facing towards the elbows. The left arm holster was placed under one sleeve, while the other was placed over the second sleeve, leaving each handle either just over or under his wrists. Throughout their lives, Zaec and his twin brother, Zaec's trained Shero, had always hated their father, thus hated the way he ran things. So in spite to overthrow their father's empire, the two took off to what they thought was an unknown planet, soon to be found out as Earth, to find a cult of Kexans that they believed were planning an uprising against the king and his empire. The king wished to rule the entire galaxy in search for that ancient and mythical power, the Endelment, killing all who either didn't comply or gave false facts. However, it had been over a year and the brothers had not found a single Kexan, not even a small hint of one. With that, Zaec went to relax and wait until one would eventually bring itself out of hiding, hoping that they could make amends with one another, as impossible as that sounds. It all began on a Monday, with Zaec being at the mild age of 115. Funny enough, Zaec hates Mondays, only because they've always been bad days for him. Not exactly sure why. Anyways, it was about 57 degrees Fahrenheit where he was, some stupid place called California, I think. The clouds above were just about black, flashing with bright lightning every 2 to 3 seconds and constantly roaring with thunder. Wind was blowing mildly in almost every direction with pouring rain, which had not stopped for over a month. Thing is, Zaec loved this kind of weather. It was actually very calming for him. The worst weather for him was when it was bright and sunny, lightly cloudy, and the temperature was around 70 degrees. The type of weather that most people liked. Zaec hated that. Another funny thing is, when the temperature was anything above 80 degrees and it's completely sunny, or thick cloud cover, he was fine with it as well. Even if the temperature was anything below 50 degrees and it was cloudy, maybe a little rainy or snowy, it was fine by him. Dreadful weather was almost perfect to him, but rain was his favorite. It truly was beautiful. However, waiting around in this harsh weather was what started this story. The tragic story of Zaec, Raec, and Shero. My story. This concludes the reading of the prologue and chapter 1. Thank you all for watching and listening. If you like what you've seen and heard, there will be a link to my physical works in the description below. Other than that, stay safe, take care, and we will see you again next week, reading chapter 2.